The new iPhones aren't selling. I hate to say I told you so, but the reports are in. And this year's iPhones ain't doing so good. And I kinda told you so. Now, before everyone goes nuts, let me say that the iPhone XR is still my everyday carry and likely is going to be for quite some time, at least until the next round of phones come out. I bought my daughter one just this week for her 15th birthday. I am in no way, I repeat, no way flip-flopping on my overall positive feelings about this year's iPhones, but a flood of reports have come in the last several days portraying some pretty scary news for the folks over there in the space donut. First, there were reports that Apple shocked investors by reporting a lower than expected sales forecast for the holiday season. An investor's note from Rosenblatt Securities says Apple's fading demand is in part due to competition from companies like Huawei, which are making some pretty darn good phones in the world market. The Verge also reported that Apple has cut production for all three of its new phones and has now restarted the manufacture of iPhone Xs because of an agreement with Samsung on the quantity of OLED screens they were going to purchase from them, and now they're not likely going to sell enough XS and XS Max phones to meet that order, so they had to figure out what to do, and I guess the answer is go back to last year's phone. Remember, at the time the new phones were announced a couple of months back, the iPhone X was completely cut out of the lineup. Now it's on the way back as a solution to the flagging sales of the new flagship models. And today it was announced that Apple will now discount the iPhone XR in Japan because the phone just is not selling over there. When was the last time Apple discounted a phone just less than a month after its release? To my recollection, never? And this all comes in the wake of reports that the iPhone XR sales were weak overall, and production numbers have been cut twice in the less than 4 weeks since its release. Reports have also surfaced that Apple has cut the production orders for all three of the new models, while customers are opting to buy last year's iPhone 8. This is exactly what I feared when I finished watching Apple's keynote announcing these new phones. I made a bunch of videos saying so. If you don't believe me, you can watch them up here. Up here, I think they are. Apple not only raised the price of the XS over what the 10 cost last year, they created a whole new price tier above that with the XS Max. In doing so, they created this giant hole in their lineup where they could slide in this new XR phone as a less expensive alternative new phone. Some might say a budget model, but it is not a budget model. It seems like that hole is now being filled by the iPhone 8s and now soon to be 10s. Some reports have the XR selling better than the XS, but even so, it's missing sales projections and production will likely be cut as much as 1/3 for the device. I think the XR is a really great phone. Is it too expensive at $749 to start? Before it went on sale, a lot of people in the tech community seemed to think that it wasn't and that Apple had made a great move by slotting it into the aforementioned hole where the other phones used to exist. When I suggested that the price was too damn high and there was a clear and present danger that the XR could end up as the 5C Mark II, I was chastised for not taking into account that the 5C had an older processor than the new at the time 5S. While the XR has the same processor and is virtually the same phone as the more expensive new phones, aside from the screen, the camera, and the amount of RAM that it has, the average consumer, I was told, over and over again, wouldn't care about those differences, and they will flock to the XR, they said. In part, these folks were absolutely right. The average consumer doesn't seem to care about the spec differences between the iPhones, to the point where instead of buying the XR, they're buying the iPhone 8. For a few years now, folks have been wondering if Apple was ever going to find that breaking point for the average consumer's willingness to pay ever-increasing prices for iPhones. There was a lot of talk that the average consumer would not be able to tell the difference between this XR's lower resolution screen and other spec differences, but it hasn't made them want to pay $749 or more for it. Thinking back, I also said that Apple would sell a ton of XRs if they had priced it at $699. They didn't, and they haven't. Meanwhile, the average cost of the iPhone XI and XI Plus over all of its different permutations, what does that cost? Just about $699. So, has Apple hit the proverbial invisible price wall? Are they the victims of making good products that last a long time and so people don't want the new ones? Should they have discontinued all of their other models and sold only the new iPhones, forcing people to buy what they clearly think they should want? Will these models bounce back and meet or exceed original expectations or even initial expectations? Only time will tell, but as of now, the info coming from the Magic 8 Ball says, not likely. Will the XR still be the best seller of the new iPhones this year? Possibly, but that, if all the phones don't sell well, will be a Pyrrhic victory for those who hung their hats on that stat as proof of the overall success of these new phones. If these reports of cutbacks and poor sales overall turn out to be not just a trend, but a long-term reality, then it's not going to matter which phone sold the most. I still love my XR, and I think it's a great phone, but this ain't about me. It's about the average consumer and how that group is reacting to the new iPhone models. As the reports flow in just a month after the release of the XR and a little longer for the XS and XS Max, it seems like things aren't going well. To be painfully honest, I didn't want to be right about these phones. They're good products. At this point, it seems like I was.